So we're going to, first of all, aren't they wonderful? Look at them. They have so many wonderful things to say. It's really fun to have you guys here. Thank you. So I'm going to ask them to tell you who they are, kind of tell you what they're doing in their life now. This is all about being successful, being inspiring, and they are, and anything else they want to tell you. We're going to try and take 2 minutes just to let you become familiar with each person, and then we have some specific questions to ask. If you have questions somewhere around here for the panelists, there are cards. Lindsay, is that right? Yes. Okay. So this is Lindsay over here, Lindsay Fabella, and she'll pass out the cards and then bring the cards up and we'll answer them. Okay, everybody? All righty. You want to start?
I'll kick it off. The one that didn't go to Armstrong. That's my name. Now, my name's Ross, and I actually work for Apple currently. Fell into it when I got out of college, into the Apple stores, actually, and I'm now a manager for the store down in Monterey. So when you find something that works, you stick with it.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I am Zach. I went to Charles Armstrong for first and second grade in 01 and 02. I just graduated from University of Colorado at Boulder last year, and I am now selling software in San Francisco right down the street, and I live up the street over on Lyon and Geary. I'm going to pass it on to my father, who also went to Charles Armstrong.
I'm Dad. My name is Steven Cherner, and I'm an old-timer. So I was Charles Armstrong the very, very first year, 1968 through 70, so a long time ago. Went to high school in Woodside, graduated from Santa Barbara, and I've been in the software industry since. ASK, SAP, Accept, Allegis. I've been VP of Sales, COO, President, CEO, but I've been in high tech my whole career. Now I consult for them.
Okay, this works. I'm Caroline Rossetti. I went to Armstrong 4th grade to 8th grade. I went to a Convent of the Sacred Heart High School here in San Francisco, and then I went to University of California at Berkeley for college on a rowing scholarship. I currently work with my father in real estate and development over in the East Bay.
Hi, my name's Claire Lazar. I went to Charles Armstrong. I had a little bit of a hiccup. I did 6th, 7th, 8th, and 8th. Bonus round. And I went to Notre Dame Belmont and went to San Francisco State. And now I work with my mom in real estate in the area.
Hi, I'm David. I think I went to Armstrong in '89. That's my best guess. For 3rd grade. Moved to Nashville soon afterwards, and I went to an LD school there as well. Currently, I consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm starting up a real estate business, but I've worked at big companies like Google and YouTube, and medium-sized startups as well, in marketing, digital marketing.
I'm Colin Maslin. I went to Charles Armstrong from 3rd to 8th grade. I did 1 year with Claire, so that was fun. And we had Rosalie as our principal, so really come full circle. I'm a teacher at Sand Hill School, and I teach 5th grade.
When I was growing up, I swore up and down my entire life I would never, ever, ever work in real estate. I would never work with my parents. This was not going to be a family affair. In college, when my dad got sick, I came and I was helping out in the office a little bit. And my mom is very ADD, and she's all over the place and kind of like the Tasmanian devil and spinning from one thing to another. She's a very big picture person and very disorganized. So when I joined the team, I realized that there was a need, and my organization totally complements her tornado.
Well, even if one parent is in the room, I don't work with my mom. So but we get along pretty well. I work with my dad, and similar to Claire, my dad is very dysfunctional when it comes to organization and keeping track of stuff. We joke that you can never give Bill a piece of paper if you want to see it again. So I kind of take the reins on that, and I'm very organized. And again, I didn't see myself doing real estate when I was growing up. I wanted to be a vet, but conveniently, my major was the urban city, and then from there I started working with my dad, and I ended up enjoying it, and I am really successful in it. And I think that, and I'm really competitive. So I think all of those attributes really fit in real estate and development, even though I didn't see it at the beginning. And also, I didn't want to go back to school to become a vet. So that was a big reason.
Yeah, I find myself always trending towards entrepreneurship in some way or another. Even when I was working at Google and YouTube, I was on tiny teams on new products that were growing, so I was able to be an entrepreneur within a larger organization. I started up a couple companies, and none of them have done anything crazy yet, but there's still time. And I think I was trying to do some thinking about why I am so drawn to entrepreneurship, and I think it sort of comes down to three things. One is that I have real trouble with writing and reading, but math is a strong suit for me. And a lot of entrepreneurship to me is looking at numbers and finding opportunity within numbers. And so that part is really fun for me. And also analyzing the data that I get back from the businesses that I start and changing them as they go. The second one is creativity. So, when I was younger, my mom and teachers would say I was lost in the clouds during class, and I'm just, But I was thinking about all sorts of cool stuff, and thinking about the shapes of clouds, and so I really like to be creative, and entrepreneurship gives me an outlet to be creative in a professional way. And then lastly, the learning disability itself is as much of a burden as it was, it's a very big gift for an entrepreneur. You learn to fail and get back up again and again and again and again. And when you're doing entrepreneurship, you come across something. Maybe you have a product that's not the right product market fit, and you have to trash the whole thing and start over again. And some people can't handle that defeat. But to me, that defeat is small, and it just is, oh, that didn't work. All right, let's go do it some other way. And let's look at the data again, and then let's do this. And so it just makes you so resilient in your professional life. And so I wouldn't wish a learning disability on any child, but it can make you very strong in the workforce.
In the technology industry, software, we're trying to find a solution for problems, and often entrepreneurs or the developers will come out with a great technology, but they don't know how to pitch it, how to find out who the right audience is, who the right buyers are, and how to paint that picture. And that's one of the things that, growing up as a dyslexic, I learned how to, follow the flow. And so, compensating for my weakness in reading, I compensated by being, active in talking. So I can paint pictures and tell stories and convey a message of how to solve problems and then get people to buy off on that, right? And so the same thing though with software. One company I went to, they were selling to the wrong people. I'm like, these people can't buy software. You just have to know the audience and look at the business and understand where the money and the budget and the needs are, and then try to align all those things. You got to figure it out, and you can't be afraid to ask questions. As a father with two sons that were dyslexic, as they learned how to cope with the challenges, I instilled in them that you own this. You have to be responsible for it. So, the first thing is you have to be your own advocate. In college, you have to talk to professors. You have to talk to teachers' aides. You have to say, I'm a dyslexic, and you have to say, I test differently, or. I remember in college, every time I had a new teacher's assistant, they would fail me because I can't spell. And in those days, we didn't have laptops. It was Blue Book. I had to write everything. And so I'd go to the teacher's aide and I'd say, grade me on my content, not on my spelling. And the professor would say, it's right. And then they'd give me good grades because I can argue, but I can't spell.
I was telling someone just last night, they said, how do you like working for Apple? I said, I love working for Apple and I love working at the store. The only downside is it's a retail schedule. So it's very unpredictable, which actually, if it was just me and my lonesome, but it's not. I live with my better half, my wife, and want to have a family someday. Unpredictability is kind of fun. I like the fact that I work 1 to 10 today, 7 to 4 tomorrow. Oh, wow, I got to be back at work in 6 hours. Okay, cool. It works for me. But the truth is, when I got out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into hospitality, had pursued an admissions counselor role at my college, and as close as a sure thing can be, I thought it was a done deal. And I didn't get it. I was told, if we had one more spot, Ross, it'd be you. And I kind of spun out, and my parents said, listen, you better get a job. We don't care what you do. You can go work at McDonald's. It doesn't matter, but you need to get a job. And so I ended up working at the Apple store because I had a friend that worked there. He said it was pretty cool. I said, I mean, Apple, that would look good on a resume. Sure, I'll give it a whirl. And I loved it. Everything about it. The constant noise, the commotion, the drama, the excitement, the new products. Like, oh man, like, who is that? Like, is Will.i.am in our store right now? What? I loved all of it. And so I've just found an environment that plays to my strengths and how my brain is wired. And so in the last 8.5 years, I've worked at 5 different stores. I've helped lead two new store openings. And the last thing I'll just say is that risk, talked about some risk. I don't see risk the same way as an ADHD mind that most people do. And at Apple, that's helped me thrive because people, when they get comfortable, they just kind of like close in and they want to stay there, whether it's your bed or wherever. Not me. As soon as I'm comfortable, I want to switch it up. I want it to be more exciting. I want it to be more fun. And so I don't have a problem of saying, hey, goodbye, team. Goodbye, amazing people that I've worked with for 3 years. I'm going to go check out a new team. And that's allowed me to continue building relationships and propelling my career forward.
So, I mean, one of the biggest things I learned is that you can't be afraid to fail. Like, because no matter what, no matter who you are in life, you are going to mess up. You are going to fail at something. And that is 100% okay. Like, the biggest thing is you have to learn from your mistakes. So the minute you fail, figure out why you failed, and then improve on that. Because everyone has weaknesses in life. It doesn't matter who you are. But as long as you're improving on your weaknesses and you're working and making yourself better each day, life is going to get easier and life is going to get better.
Yeah, so I mean, I joke with people on multiple levels about how I reached where I am today because I surprised myself. You know, I've been given a lot of thought since Rosalie asked me to be here, but I had always told people my path wasn't linear. So it was, you know, I felt like I was just all over the map, not knowing what I was doing. But looking back, I see some consistent themes. You know, the biggest one being that I want to help people. So I studied criminal justice, and I thought that law enforcement was going to be the venue that or the way that I cared for people. And so I moved back to my home state of Maine because I wanted to be near some of my family, and had taken 3 part-time jobs at the same time just to be there while I was getting set up. And one of them was LL Bean, which is an outdoor company. And I got a call from a coworker late at night in a rainstorm, and she said, you know, I have a flat tire, and she knew I lived in Freeport. So I went out and I changed it. And as a thank you, she took me out to dinner with some of her friends. They all happened to work at a behavioral day treatment school in Maine for kids who either had crisis placement in the hospital, had been in juvenile hall, or had been let go from their school district. And just working there was a great experience. I built connections with not only the kids, but also the my coworkers. But as I started to get older, I decided I wanted to be near my West Coast family also. So I moved back and I reached out to Rosalie looking for some advice on, different options, because I was kind of at a crossroads of, do I want to work mental health or do I want to work education? And the Children's Health Council is both. So she was the perfect person to talk to.
Find a fan. Find fans of you. And don't waste your time spending another moment with someone that's not your fan. Because I'm telling you, it's just a waste of space spending time with those people. Find the people that celebrate you, that think you're really awesome, and that are good at reminding you of the value that you can bring the world. I think a lot of times, I know I probably wouldn't be here today. Who knows where I'd be? Probably in some weird spots in life if I didn't have my parents. My parents were my first fans. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that my parents aren't always around. So I need to find those fans and stick close to them.
I would say, and well, I always kind of was this way, but go back and reinforce to really focus on your strengths and what you do well. And I never really focused on any weakness. I worked at them, but it wasn't the priority. So just to reinforce that, just really focus on what you're good at and what your strengths are, and you'll be a lot happier.
So one big thing for me was that when I used to be in class and I didn't understand something, I was scared to raise my hand and ask a question, which don't ever be afraid to do that, because if you don't understand something, ask that question, because 9 times out of 10, there's another kid in the class that also has that same question, and they're gonna be glad that you asked it because they may have been too nervous to ask it too. And then the second thing is use all of your resources at your schools. Go and ask your teachers for help after school, go to this special education programs, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, use every resource you have in life, because people are here to help you and you need to you take advantage of that.
I guess if I was talking back to myself, I would definitely encourage younger me to check my ego at the door and not be hung up on these labels. Because I felt that really tended to hold me back. And I was doing it to myself because I was in a community and I had these wonderful champion parents this was our normal. My siblings are dyslexic. My mom has ADD and my dad's dyslexic. We're in a whole family full of it. But I really felt that if I was saying, oh, I have this learning disability or this dyslexia or whatever you want to label it as, I was admitting there was something wrong or there was a fault. And as I've gotten some distance and traveled through life and thus far, I can kind of get distance from that and check my ego. And this is not a disability in any way. I don't think that anybody should view it as a handicap. We're all so different and wonderful, and that's what makes the world such a more interesting, beautiful place, because we can all approach problems and situations in a unique light.
So many good ones have been taken already. This is the wrong
You can't
time
use
to go.
those.
This is the wrong time to go last. I would say, and this one may be more for me personally, but don't fight your parents so much on having them give you help and try to help you. I know that the problem was the things that I was getting help on were so hard. I would avoid them at all costs, but my mom was just trying to help and make me a better student. And so if I could go back, I would say, let your parents help and understand that they're really doing something good for you.
I got another one. We could probably be up here all day talking about these things. Don't give up. I wish maybe if someone thinks of a better way to say that, that comes across more powerful and impactful for essentially my younger self, tell me, but don't give up. Grades are not the end all be all. And ultimately, everything that, school feels like your whole world. It feels like you're never going to get out of it. You're like you're suffocating by school. Going to public school, I didn't get a lot of support. And often I thought, tests, I'm going to have to take tests the rest of my life. And if that's the case, I'm doomed. Tests are not going to be a part of the rest of your life. In fact, when you get done and out of school, you might be like me and go, oh my gosh, no homework? No tests? This is awesome. So don't give up, because seriously, there is life after school, and I think that's when things really start to get good for folks like us.
I would just say that to be comfortable to say, I don't know what's going to happen, and just to show up and work hard, and you'll figure it out as you go.
Well, and this is kind of posed to all of us here, but storytelling. So in school, growing up, storytelling was it was my friend's favorite thing about Ross. It's like, Ross, tell that story. Tell it again, just like you did to me 10 minutes ago. And I thought, it was fun, but I always thought, this is ridiculous. All I am is a storyteller. That actually turns out to work pretty well in your favor later on. When you're selling anything, when you're just trying to talk to anybody, we enjoy stories way more than we do just black and white, boring information. I know that's something that I noticed when I was younger, and I don't know, anybody else have no, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
Storyteller.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I'm especially working with buyers, especially first-time buyers, you're in a space and you start to create a narrative, right? And let's envision your life here, and you create a story. Yeah, you help them form a story. I would totally agree that in some way or another, we all like to tell stories, and
there's a lot of people who aren't good at telling stories. This is true.
I can think of one person who would tell me stories when I was younger and really helped me out. His name was Larry, and he was my grandfather's best friend. And I don't know that he was dyslexic, but he certainly had a learning disability, and he would tell you that too. And he was wildly successful in commercial real estate. And I remember being on vacation, I think it was a spring break, working on college applications. At this point, I didn't even want to go to college. So it was a real fight for my family and for me. And Larry didn't go to college. And I just remember him saying, I was nervous about my personal essays that I was going to submit to colleges, because you're telling your personal story, and they're either going to accept you or reject you based on that story. And I didn't know that I wanted my story to be about being dyslexic, but it had so shaped who I am as a person that I decided I had to go with it. And I just remember Larry saying, I stopped caring what other people thought about me a long time ago. And that was great advice.
I was just going to say, every time I finish a story, it's kind of like, oh, well, you should have been there. I can't tell it. But I kind of wanted to say I found an outlet from school, and I bet a lot of you guys did, whether it be art or for me it was sports. So I thrived in sports, and that was my comfort zone. So no matter if I had a hard day, a bad test, whatever, I always knew that I had 3:30 to 7 that I could just really enjoy the day, and then I would come home and I would be refreshed for homework, okay, I can do this. I had a good workout. I PR'd or something, and I just think that's really important, is to find an outlet somewhere in life, whatever it is, and focus on it if you enjoy it.
I think it's I think the stigma is definitely, we're on the cusp of like something great where it's not. Well, let me go back. Our culture as a whole, we are celebrating differences more than ever before. I mean, you turn around, you're like, oh, we're celebrating that now as a society. Okay, I'm on board. Awesome. I mean, every day there's something else. And so it's good. The problem is, that I find, is that people still don't get it. They're like, what's ADHD? Or, I mean, I have that too. What do you mean? They don't understand. So I think we're at this place where we're on the cusp of something great. We need, and it starts with all of us. We have to continue pushing forward in that positive way, viewing it as something that could be your greatest differentiator. But then there's the education piece for the populace of like, well, here's what it is. And that starts with each one of us actually, and for me, up until a couple years ago, I wasn't super knowledgeable about all the things. And that helps when you're educating others, being knowledgeable yourself.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's really interesting. When I was in high school, especially, people knew about dyslexia, they knew about ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, the whole everything. But when I got to high school, everyone had a problem. They had, not everyone was perfect, and even if they didn't fall under the cusp of having a learning disability. And it was interesting because they'd be like, yeah, I'm just really not good at writing that well. Like, I still have a tutor. And it very open and not caring what other people thought. And was really interesting to me because I had only heard it within, like, I have dyslexia, or I have, in that wheelhouse. And that, so it was interesting to me that everyone was kind of opening up more, and you didn't have to be so great at everything when it comes to academics. And it kind of made me feel like, all right, I'm on top of the world kind of thing. Like, I have problems too, you have problems. And it's not just being dyslexic, kind of. Like, it feels like the family's growing, So I thought that was really interesting.
I was going to say that to the point of sort of beyond awareness is the education component, what you were talking about. I think to recently, and coming out of business school, getting extra time on a test and telling somebody that the reason I got to stay longer, because they saw me stay and keep taking the test, and they all left. And they, when I talked to them later, they said, oh, why'd you get to do that? And I said, oh, well, I've got a learning disability. And they're like, oh, that's so cool, like, that they're doing that. And then it's like, they're like, if I had extra time on the test, though, I could do way better. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, no, I need extra time on the test so I can perform to your level. It's not like, I'm not getting this is just so I can be normal, And I think that part is that there's a disconnect in the awareness and the education.
I just had a real quick one because it happened today. I was working the Sand Hill booth, and it was directly across from the University of Arizona SALT Center booth. And the SALT Center is an alternative learning strategies center at the U of A for students with disabilities. And I was working the volunteer booth at Sand Hill, and I said to a student, that's the program I utilized in college. And she pauses, and I said, I'm dyslexic. And she pauses again. She goes, but you look like, and she pauses, a teacher. And so I think you're talking about the stigma being reduced, but I think also we're having to reimagine what people with dyslexia can do for professional work.
I was very angry. Angry that I really loved to learn, but I couldn't get there. I couldn't put the puzzle blocks together, and I'm sure I wrote mean letters to my mom. I probably acted out in other ways as well, but I was really angry, but you just have to, believe in yourself and keep pushing because it will get better. Luckily, I had parents that took the wheel and really kind of guided me and made me feel like I could do everything that I wanted to do. But no, I'm sure a lot of people were angry at first because if you want to do something and you're engaged but you can't, that's the worst feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so, I mean, when I definitely, around like kindergarten before I went to Charles Armstrong, I was definitely a little bit embarrassed once I started to figure it out, and I was extremely frustrated because I actually somehow failed first grade. Don't know how I did it, but I somehow failed first grade, and so then I had to repeat first grade at Charles Armstrong. And to me, I was so embarrassed, I was so frustrated, but then I realized, like, oh, like, even though when the teacher calls on me and I have to read aloud, like, I can't do it as quickly as other kids and everything, but when I was on the playground, I could be the most social kid, I could go talk to people, so it's just, as everyone's kind of been saying, is you have to figure out what you're good at and then just keep going with that, and then you'll find out what you're passionate about, and then you'll be able to be very successful in life.
I've seen it from both sides as a dyslexic and then as a parent. I was married to an angel, and my two sons were going through this. And in those days, I was flying a couple 100,000 miles a year, and I wasn't always home. And I listened and heard the frustration and the anger in the evenings when they were trying to do homework. And it's something that as parents we all deal with, that we have to find out how do they connect, and how do we align the wiring. And thank God for your mom. But it's figuring out how to learn and figuring out how to play the game. And I used to say when they were little, I said, just figure out how to play this game, and it's going to be a lot more fun. Right. I guess one more comment on that is, we were talking earlier about kids. The older we get, time goes by faster, right? Remember when we were in third grade and that one semester took a year or 2 or 3, and they get so caught up on how miserable they are right now, and oh my God, my world is going to end. And I say, when you're my age, that's like a snapshot in time, pal. A year goes by so fast. You're 23 now, right? 25 now. You have to help them understand that time is. They think, oh my God, my world's gonna end. My girlfriend broke up with me. I can't do this test. It's gonna happen. You're gonna be just fine. And when you look back at life, this is that much, and that perspective, I think, really helps.
Yeah, I forget the quote, but I think someone said it best, where it's like, when you're young, you always think the world is ending, but really it's just the beginning. So just keep fighting through it, honestly.
I know when I would get really angry, kind of lumping in all the moments, is when the deck was stacked against me. When people didn't believe in me, when people were counting me out. Like, nah, you can't do that. That's when I get really angry. But as an adult now, that also is like my greatest source of like drive and why I'm successful in anything. Like being here today. I didn't go to Armstrong. Being here today is really kind of a small miracle. And when I started telling people what I was doing, I'm going to be leading a workshop, doing these things, so many people were like, you're going to do what? Oh, you think you can do that? I mean, and as an adult now, that fires me up. So I don't spin out as much anymore. I deal with the struggles of not believing myself, but that fuels me to want to prove them wrong.
I'll just piggyback on yours really quickly. I got very, very angry when other kids would identify or try to label me as different, and that's when I would get so angry because I know I'm just like you. We're exactly the same, except my brain works a little bit different than yours. And in reality, I mean, that we're all different. I mean, dyslexic or not dyslexic, I mean, that's what drives us all forward, right?
Yeah. Maybe I'm lucky for always being the tallest kid in the class, and maybe people didn't want to pick on me because I was a lot bigger than them. So that worked out well for me. But I think my anger came from confusion. I didn't understand, when I was younger, I didn't understand why I couldn't do anything. I wasn't mad at my teachers. I wasn't mad at my parents. I was mad at myself because I kept trying and it didn't work. And so anything that came out, acting out in any way was derived from confusion and anger about that confusion and not being able to solve a problem.
What are some of the tools that you use in your workplace right now to help you? So we know some people are not so great at writing and they never write in a conference room in front of other people. And we know, there's just a lot of things I think people would be interested to hear. May I say one thing before you start? Someone asked, what is Armstrong? I feel bad about that because I should have explained. I don't know who asked this, but Charles Armstrong is a school in Belmont for kids with learning differences. Sand Hill is a school in Palo Alto for kids with learning differences. So, okay, Caroline.
I was just going to say I live by this. If you can't do it, you don't know how to do it, you get someone to do it for you. I'm horrible at math, and I work with numbers. I'm in real estate and development all the time. Do I do those? No. Do I have people? If I do I have someone look it over? Absolutely. I am really good at the people stuff. I communicate with people well, and then I have other people do the stuff that I'm not well at, and it seems to be working.
So one tool that everyone should definitely go out and download, it's called Grammarly, and it's basically like spell check but for grammar. And there's a free version on it, and I have to write a ton of emails for sales, and without this application, I don't know if I could do my job the way it does, because it literally will fix all of your syntax, everything, and it connects to Word, so when you're writing your school papers and everything, it'll help you fix your grammar, and it also teaches you why your grammar was a mistake, so you learn it a lot quicker too.
How many of you guys use it?
Yeah, I literally I heard it was founded by a guy that was dyslexic too, I heard, and I just found out about it about 8 months ago, and it completely changed.
2 tools. So get ready. Get out your smartphones. And you download these 2 apps right now. You will not regret it. Yes, neither of them are free, and that's okay because people worked hard to create them, and a few dollars is all right. So first one is called Bear, like Bear. Best note-taking app I've come across, and I've learned that I have to write everything down. If I don't, I will forget it. And I've gotten really good at saying, hold that thought. Let me jot that down. The other one is Due. This is the best reminders app that I've come across. DUE. It's like $5. Game changer. There's no reminders app like it. It reminds you incessantly until you do the thing. And to be honest, it might make some of you in the audience, like your head might explode if you use this app, but it changed everything for me because I never forget anything anymore.
In high school, I worked my senior year schedule, second semester, so my last year of high school, so I could leave school at lunch, and then I would bike until it would get dark out. I had BMX, road cycling, mountain biking, motocross. It didn't matter. I would do one of those for 4 hours a day. And now I can't do that anymore. But I certainly, on the weekend and on the evenings, try to at least get a run in, walk the dog, do something that gets you moving.
I did the exact same thing in high school. I worked my schedule so that I could maximize my school time as efficiently as possible so I could get out of there, and I rode horses. And I would do that until they told me I couldn't anymore and I had to go home.
Yeah. Well, Caroline, you rode, right?
Yeah, all throughout the boats crew. I rode in high school all 4 years, and then I rode all 4 years at Cal. In high school, my schedule, I went to school at 7, got out at 2:45, 3, was at the boathouse by 4, and I got home at around 7:30, and I had 2 to 3 times a week. I had a tutor from 7:30 until I was done, and I went to bed and then repeated. And now it's pretty much the same. I wake up, I go to work, and then after work, I go to the gym, and then when I'm home, I go to bed. I live a very exciting life. But I enjoy it, and it's working out for me has always been a stress reliever. Doesn't matter if it's work-wise or life. My sister, someone that's stressing me out. It's the it's the time that you really have for yourself, that you can think about anything, and you never know.
Thank you. Anything, other rituals?
I mean, I just add to that I'm really excited. At Sand Hill, we're partnering with Specialized Bikes next fall to launch the Ride for Focus program. And it's specifically for students who have the attentional challenges, like ADHD. And we're going to be working with Central Michigan University and Stanford to collect data to show that our students can perform better academically if they're taking the time to get that energy out. So
That's a great thing. Yeah.
So breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We've always heard that. I have the same breakfast almost every morning. Sprouted wheat toast with almond butter, sliced avocado, and drizzled honey. And I've had people tell me that know something about nutrition. They're like, that's a fantastic breakfast. So I start every day on the right foot, no matter how the rest of the day goes. One, interrupting people. Sometimes even my friends would just, kind of snap a little bit because I had unknowingly been interrupting them for maybe our whole friendship. I don't know. And then the second one is being funny. That I was the person in school where people knew that they could razz me and I could be the butt of their joke because I could take it. And I generally made other people laugh, and I knew that. So I just kind of rode that wave.